Well, thanks so much for tuning into this conversation with Gurmeet Chadha of Complete Circle. Reliance AGM is over and a bunch of things have come out on expected lines. Maybe a couple of announcements that the market was waiting with bated breath haven't come about, but the optimists would say that this need not necessarily be the platform wherein the IPOs of the companies need be announced. So it could cut both ways. The stock price swung between losses and minor gains before ending the day with, I believe, a little bit of loss. Gurmeet Chadha is here to take us through what he thought were the key highlights and his takeaways essentially from this conversation. Gurmeet, great having you. Thanks for joining in. Much later than what we anticipated, we'll have a conversation. But be that as it may, what stood out for you, Gurmeet?
So, Neeraj, I think watching 4 lakh people watching the Reliance AGM live tells you also about the rising new age investors now, right? And I think rightfully it started with the digital business, and I think they spent disproportionate time there if you only go by the duration of the AGM. So I think that business continues to, in my view, will bear the bulk of the burden. So it's already 40% EBIT. Revenue-wise, could be like 27-28% if I take last quarter. But so clearly that contribution is going up. And I think what stood out to me was first why market thought, obviously they were clear in terms of the leadership. He clearly spelled out that, Akash taking over Jio and Isha taking over retail in leadership roles. And later Anand spending most of his time at Jamnagar in the new energy business. So I think this one leg of succession planning, I think was in more than ways, I think spelled out pretty clearly. Second, I think what I like is, while they are aggressive 5G rollout plans, I think I would like to see, monetization also. Unlike in the past, where what Reliance has done is it's invested and then later on monetized. So I think the next leg market would be keen and probably may get, that's why it closed a little in the negative, was nothing much on any strategic investors, right, across the valuation. I think that was something which, or any idea on Geo listing timeline. They may not have. Obviously, it wasn't expected that they will announce that. And another interesting thing I think is this: what they did with Geo is what they are trying to do with new energy. I think they're very aggressive there. 5th gigafactory they announced. Secondly, if you see, even in oil and gas, they talked about the polyester investments.
Yeah.
And all, which they clearly want to move away from fossil fuels, and they highlighted that, right? And then spoke about the entire battery ecosystem where they're going to invest in, which to me is one of the most critical components. So they acquired Ambri also last year. They spoke at length about, so those were 2 businesses they were very focused on. And I think the new re-rating for the stock, in my view, is that is this the monetization of the new energy business? I think because had the Aramco deal happened, probably you would have seen very, very different things to it. But since it hasn't happened, I think that's to me is because that's energy, mind you, is still 60%.
Yeah. So, Gurmeet, 1 or 2 things. Did the no announcements around the IPO timelines of Jio in particular, but even otherwise, even retail, did that disappoint you? Would you have anticipated some hints, if nothing else, or not really?
See, the market wasn't expecting it. In terms of
the market was expecting it, right? I mean, the market wanted it.
Yeah, I mean, it wants it, but probably the news was probably maybe sometime later, right? I think that's what a lot of brokerage notes I read. I mean, anything obviously would have been great news, right? Because if you see the valuations, you have $110 billion kind of a Geo valuation, which a lot of people, it varies from 100 to $110 billion. Geo as a standalone business, and Bharti is 50 billion, right? If you just want to compare, not really apples to apple, but so anything to do that, then certainly re-rates you, because then the retail business gets priced in. Then you have the the new energy business. So you then get that sum of parts, which the picture becomes more easier. So I think that was one. I think more than that, I think the street wants some guidelines. So they're again spending, right, 2 lakh crores on 5G, big plans around energy. I think more than that, in my view, would be any strategic sale. I think that in the energy business to me would be a more stronger factor, along with obviously Geo getting separately listed.
The investments are always welcome. I heard you mention that they might monetize. Do you think, because the market may not have thought like you, or may not be thinking like you, and the market thinks that, oh, 3.5 lakh crores is a large number. Therefore, does it take Reliance back to the days wherein it had a leverage which was high? Do you think the market could be thinking like that, Gurmeet?
Partially, yes, Neeraj. Tend to agree there. Also, one area where Reliance always comes under discussion is the free cash flow generation, right?
Mm.
Some point of time, all of this has to translate into meaningful FCF, right? And if you're continuously on the capex mode, which unfortunately the nature of the business is, right? Telecom is gruesome, so is digital, and now energy, right? So what they are trying to do is a complete 360-degree there. So I think announcements around monetization would help. Otherwise, we will again possibly in that period where the stock remained in a range for a very very long time, and the re-rating actually started once they monetized.
Yes.
It was otherwise it was 600, 800 for, if I remember correctly, from 2012 to almost 18, 19. So I think that's where probably to me is a. But you look at the broad numbers, Neeraj. I think if you see in the digital business, I think the way they are generating flows. So look at, for example, Geo, with 42 crore users, with ARPU inching up. I think that can take care of the graded investments in 5G, right? It's 2 lakh is a little more than I would have thought. The energy business is where I think the street would expect a quicker response there. That's my view on it, because the digital business as it is will generate more cash flows. As we move it.
Yeah, and quite unlike pre-COVID, energy is not a bad word.
Oh, it isn't at all. And I think the word ESG got overused, abused so much. I just look at the performance of some of the the old age,
Yeah,
if not the new age energy businesses. But what I like is that they want to have the complete ecosystem around. So they're not
sure.
saying that we are only doing hydrogen. So they gave updates on, for example, REC doing 6 crore solar panels. Then they spoke about the battery ecosystem. Then they spoke about how gigafactories will the solar output will start mid 20. So they have timelines to it. It's not that everything will start accounting for let's say 4 years from now. So I think that's one part I like. But I would have loved any strategic partnership like what has happened in Tata Power or Adani or some of the other names. I think Reliance can get it. It's not about if. I think it's more about when.
Yeah, one should remember that it was Mark Zuckerberg who came to the rescue of Reliance Industries share during the COVID times when the strategic announcements were given in. So Gurmeet, we can go on, but if we have to lay it out in a nutshell, I mean, the fact that there was a succession plan, the fact that there was a large investment across businesses, including O2C announced, and the fact that the much awaited IPOs, which some people anticipated would be announced, have not been announced. Is there something else that really made headlines for you? And of course, the part two of my question, therefore, is because the stock has been in a bit of a slumber of late, what wakes it out of this slumber?
So yes, I think more clarity on this windfall tax is an immediate thing, because obviously the government is dynamically intervening. So it becomes the market creates uncertainty around calculating margins. So look at the refining margin just fluctuating from $30 to coming in almost low single digit to flat, right? And then there is intervention on so many things, including ATFs, export duties, etc. So I think that's something to me would be an immediate leap. If that keeps on happening and oil prices keep going up, it will be an overhang, because that still contributes, as I said, the old business still is 60% on the EBIT. That is point number one. Point number two, I think, is the fact that what I liked is that the way they are collaborating, with global majors. So there was a Qualcomm CEO there, talking about there's Microsoft Azure cloud platform which they are using. Then there was Cisco and Intel. What I like about the digital story is, see, in the past we sometimes get carried away. See, we have to accept that on few things we need collaborations, and there are people who are better. So what I liked about is that the digital workhorse, if I call it, I think is really galloping fast. And I think maybe in 2 or 3 years, probably the proportion of EBIT contribute. Look at retail, for example. I mean, if you see retail, it's top 10 in Asia now, right? And then the way they are acquiring brands, and also I think if they can get around this omni-channel approach well, integrate this digital with commerce, I think to me that may just be another catalyst in further re-rating this stock.
Let's wait and watch how it shapes up. But Gurmeet, lovely having you as always. And in a nutshell, you described it so beautifully, the things that came out and the things to be watched out for. Much appreciate that.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
And viewers, thanks for tuning into this conversation around the Reliance AGM, the key takeaways thereof.